Get your ass in line. You'll need a reason, 'cause I ain't easy. If you're afraid, don't waste my time. What do you got for me? Yeah, what do you got for me?
Hey, Coulee Region. What do you got for me? Well, folks, as I mentioned in one of the previous episodes, this is a special edition 2025 recap. I wanted to go through the year in review, sort of, so to speak, and just talk about some of the really great conversations I had this week. So let's kick it off here. Folks, at the top of the list, the most significant moment of this entire year was when Erica Kirk forgave the assassin who murdered her husband. It was a powerful moment. Check this one out.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Folks, that was historic. That moment right there was history in the making. Let me tell you what occurs to me. As a person with a history degree, I'm a big-time history nerd. I remember studying World War I in college. Tell me about Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was the heir to the throne of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, who, along with his wife Sophie, was assassinated in Sarajevo in 1914. This assassination is considered a crucial event that triggered a chain of events leading to the outbreak of World War I. Folks, Erica Kirk had the power in her hands the other day to start a world war with the assassination of her husband. There were 200,000 people gathered there, and she chose love. She chose Christ's love. And this year, I was also very, very blessed to start the monthly speakeasy conversation with my friend Dana Auer, the man of the hour, and the author of the novel series 3:33 a.m. We called the show Life is Life for Everyone. We try to keep politics out of it as much as we can, but, you know, it always ends up getting in there anyway. But here's a portion of an episode that we did this year where we were discussing emergency preparedness. All right, here we go. This incredible story about Derek Van Orden, and I think this is about a week old now, maybe a week and a half by the time you see this.
Yeah. Now, if folks are listening from outside of our area and don't know who Derek Van Orden is, he's the 3rd District Congressman here on the western side of Wisconsin. Former Navy SEAL, actor, author,
and now congressman.
Chris and I have met him several times.
He came down to our loggers game in July, and he's going to be here for the La Crosse County GOP. He's going to be at the GOP. The Lincoln Day dinner on September 6th. So, You know what? If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, go get your tickets. September 6th, lacrossegop.org is where you can pick them up.
How much are those tickets? Do you know?
Go to the website and find out.
Okay,
I
good,
don't
good.
know. Thanks for challenging me. You caught me. I don't know what they are. But yeah, that's lacrossegop.org. You can get your tickets to that September 6th. You can come meet this man yourself. But yeah, let's roll into this because this is a fascinating story. Here we go.
And being credited as a hero this morning. Congressman and retired Navy SEAL Derek Van Orden driving in Iowa when he witnessed an SUV hit a semi on the side of the highway at full speed. He immediately jumped into action, rushing to the scene of the crash, where he found an 11-year-old boy who severely hurt his leg and wrist.
The boy had only minutes to live, but with the help of others who stopped, the congressman was able to use socks and seat belts and windshield wipers to fashion a makeshift
Socks,
tourniquet,
seat belts,
stopping
and windshield
the blood
wipers.
flow and saving that little boy's life. That brave Wisconsin Congressman and retired Navy SEAL Derek Van Orden joins us now. Congressman, this is a remarkable story on so many different levels. Tell us more about what happened and also why you were on that road at the time you were.
You bet. My wife and I were driving down to be with family to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of our daughter passing. Our oldest daughter died of cancer 2 days ago. And as we were going down through Iowa, I witnessed this horrific crash and turned around. My wife asked me, it was so violent. My wife asked me what that was because it was right in my rearview mirror. I said, someone just died. It was that violent. So I turned around and drove up to the crash and was able to help this young man who was grievously injured. His lower leg was destroyed and his right arm was also grievously injured with an arterial bleed. And I grabbed some socks out of my suitcase to make constricting bands. And then as more people showed up on the scene, I asked for someone if they had a knife, and we cut away the seat belts, and I was able to fashion 2 tourniquets, one for his leg and one for his arm, to stop the bleeding. And I was just very thankful. I got to tell you what, this is an 11-year-old boy who was so incredibly heroic and brave. And all of the people that showed up there, the firefighters, the just passing civilians, the sheriff's deputies, they were just amazing. The paramedics that got to the scene about 10 or 15 minutes later were simply heroic. And I'm so proud to be an American right now.
It's such a beautiful and touching and amazing story. It does underscore the fact that God truly works in mysterious ways. Congressman,
Amen.
Would this boy have died if you and the others had not stepped in?
As a very experienced combat medic, there is a greater likelihood than not that he would have passed away.
Oh, wow.
And again, I'm just incredibly thankful. And I walked into the hotel room. That picture you showed, that's our dog, Maple. Smuggled her into the hospital. Sorry, I'm kind of rolling myself up here. But I mean, who doesn't like a puppy? And he was very happy to see Maple. And he looked at me and he said, thank you. I wouldn't be here without you. And I said, you're welcome, young man. And, you've got a great future ahead of you. I was able to speak to his dad, who clearly didn't know that our daughter had passed. And I said, sir, our daughter passed 2 years ago. And I'm very thankful that you don't have to share that experience. It was a very humbling moment with his dad.
Yeah, it certainly was. Congressman, what about the other people in the car? Did everybody survive this?
The mother is also hospitalized, but she was not as injured as badly as her son was.
Okay, well,
And so we're looking forward to full recovery for both of them.
well, now you are a part of this family's family for life. And just to underscore what both of you are saying, the fact that you were on that road to celebrate your daughter's life after having passed away 2 years ago, and then able to save the life of another little boy. I mean, it's enough to just bring tears to your eyes. And like Todd said, God truly does sometimes work in remarkable and mysterious ways. And he clearly used you as a tool in this little boy's life, so who I'm sure is going to do great things because of you saving him. Congressman, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, there we have it. There we have it. It was what a beautiful story. I think they did a nice job there at Fox talking about God working in mysterious ways. And when I first saw that story, the first thing I thought of was preparedness.
Yeah.
The stuff you talk about in your book, the stuff over at USCCA, where I work, but I am not an official spokesman. I am just a proud employee. I have to have that disclaimer, the legal disclaimer. But it is preparedness, the common sense, being prepared and ready for those kinds of things.
Yeah.
I talked about it on the podcast. This is something that we carry at stored@uscca.com. It is a great kit. I have this in my truck all the time. Actually, this is the one I'm going to present to Congressman Van Orden when I see him
Very good.
at our Lincoln Day. But I'm going to crack this open. So, cracking this open, it has everything you need for an incident just like he went through. It has a tourniquet. It has like big packs of gauze. It's got even rubber gloves if you need to protect your hands and stuff. But preparedness. Something as simple as this.
Yeah.
That way you don't have to use a sock and jerry-rig a tourniquet.
But
have a proper IFAK.
Thank God that he had the foresight and the experience to think that way and be able to utilize what he did have available. And otherwise,
And another monthly series that we started this year, we called it On the Issues with Chris and Mike. My good friend Mike Hipsch coming into the speakeasy here and having conversations on a monthly basis about the issues that are top of mind at that time. Here's a really fun conversation we had about the diabolical Democrats and their government shutdown this year. One of the first things that I wanted to talk to you about as far as issues that are going on is this idea of the government shutdown.
Yeah.
And I want to say it was 12 times now that Democrats voted to keep the government closed.
Yeah. So
Where
far.
are we at on this?
So far,
So far, yeah.
Some would say that it's either political theater or an exercise in futility to keep bringing it up so that the Democrats. But frankly, I think every other day, check the temperature and see what they're feeling, how they're doing. Because I can tell you from being in the legislature, you're somewhat at the mercy of your leaders, and not so much that they tell you what to do, but what are they saying and how is that being received in your district? And for the Democratic leaders to go out and say, look, this is our leverage. We are going to use poor families who are not going to get paychecks. We're going to use military families who will not get paid.
Yeah.
People we ask to defend we're using them as our leverage to what? Make sure that illegal aliens get health care?
That's right. It's pretty sick to see that they're just using people as pawns.
Absolutely. I am stunned that this is still a viable party and that people still, I understand that there's just, especially if all you do is get your news from MSNBC and the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, fine. You don't know any different. So you're ignorant and I'm not going to have a problem with that. But if you actually are just objectively stepping back and looking at this, the continuing resolutions have basically been the way we've run this government for a decade.
At least.
So this is not, and it's not like the Republicans put any Christmas tree ornaments on this. It's like,
No.
We'll just keep it going so that we can continue. And they have drawn the line. And in the Senate, those are the rules. You got to have 60 to stop debate. And that's been the case forever.
Well, and I think along the lines of that, and taking the risk of getting a little bit wonky, I'm going to roll in a clip that I got from Senator Johnson when he was on the floor last week. He was trying to convince the Democrats to get this through cloture so that they could have a debate and have a conversation again. And that's really all that the Republicans in the Senate are asking for.
Right.
Let's get this through cloture. And he made some very good points, I thought, about the way that the process is supposed to work.
Yep.
We get through cloture, we have debate. And I think the way he put it was so well. He said, okay, so here's my version of what this can look like. Then we get through cloture and you bring your amendments, we have conversations, and we perfect it.
Yep.
It's just one person's idea as the way it's written now,
Right.
but then you get everyone else's in there through a debate and the amendment process,
Right.
and you perfect the bill, or
Yes.
to craft it properly so that everybody maybe it's not a win-win for everybody, but at least everybody walks away with something.
Right.
You don't get everything you want, but you get some of it. And I talked about it over the podcast this weekend. It's this they got to get past this idea of it's their way or no way. That has been the mentality of the Democrats all along. And they lost the election.
Yes.
They haven't come to terms with the fact that they lost the election.
Right. Exactly.
Elections have consequences, as you have reminded me for decades.
Many times, yes. Yeah, especially going back to Obama.
And folks, I apologize. I did not get this one on video, but I had the blessing of sitting down and having a conversation with Congressman Derek Van Orden this year. So here's a clip from that audio conversation. Got this table here this weekend is because I want to get people's origin stories. Sure. I'm going to ask a bunch of people just what got you involved into politics. Sure. And I had talked to Johnny about this earlier. Yeah. He said you have a great story about what brought you into the political world. So Derek Van Orden, congressman from the 3rd Congressional District, CooleyConservatives.com, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you.
What is your origin story?
Well, my wife and I were living in Butternut, which is a village in northern Wisconsin. And when I turned 50, I decided to go to law school. So we moved down to a little township called Clinton, right outside of Ellsworth. But when we were up north, we were running a little cafe that we owned.
Yeah.
We used to cook for Sean Duffy and his staff.
Right.
When they come through.
I've heard that story too.
Right. So I had a relationship with him, right? And so I moved to go to law school, which was in St. Paul. And also, it was really hard for the kids to visit us because it was so far north, So my thing was, it has to be a farm, and it's got to be within 1 hour of the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport in Wisconsin. So we found one, we moved down there. And then this impeachment garbage started coming up with the Russia collusion thing, right? Well, I did human intelligence at a very high level for a long time. And I read the Steele dossier. And I was like, this is not true. This is a politically derived document that is intentionally supposed to try to subvert a president.
Yeah.
And, it took the FBI 7 years to figure that out. That's not true. The FBI was in on it.
Interesting.
So I kept calling up and texting to this guy named Jim Miller who ran Sean's operation up north, And finally he's like, why do you keep texting and calling here? And I go, well, Sean's my congressman. He's like, no, he's not. When you moved into the 3rd Congressional District. I'm like, what? So who is my congressman? Like, I never followed this stuff. It turned out it was Ron Kind. He had been in office for 24 years at that point. And then I sent him some emails. He didn't respond. And then he cast his vote to impeach Donald Trump. And so I wrote Jim back a text message. I still have him. It's pretty funny. I was like, who are you going to run against this guy? And he writes to me back, you. Right? And I write him back, ha, 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 ha. And then he didn't write me back. So when you write ha, ha, ha to somebody and they don't write you back, that means they weren't joking. And it had never occurred to me. And so I talked to Sarah, and we prayed about it, and I decided to run for Congress. I lost the first time I ran. Yeah. I ran a 9-month campaign. It was like 72 hours after I announced the entire planet got locked down with COVID.
Yeah.
I had no money. I had no political organization. The only person in the district that knew my name was my wife, because we just moved there. And Ron had $3.1 million in the bank, a fully functioning political organization, and a 100% name recognition. And I lost by like 2.5 points.
2.5 points.
Yeah.
And you put the fear of God in him, and he bowed out the next race.
That is correct. And he said, my brand of politics, it's just not that way anymore. No, here's what happened. I didn't start fundraising or announce until the second week of Q2. Because first week is Holy Week. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think that's, we're not going to announce running for a political campaign, ask people for money.
God bless you for being the right way.
And we're looking forward to the resurrection, And so, however, when Q2 numbers came in, I had doubled the amount of money that Ron Kind had brought in for the whole first half of the year.
Wow.
So his, brand of politics, no.
Yeah.
He did the math problem and he skipped. That's fine.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Awesome.
And then the rest is history. I ran
And the
again.
rest is history.
Won, I
Like
just
you
got
said, you're
reelected.
getting ready to go to Washington again, get
Tomorrow
some work
morning,
done.
correct. Yep.
And, you know, since I do have another couple of minutes, how much time do you have today?
We got a few minutes. We're not.
A few more minutes? Okay, not in a huge rush. Perfect.
See ya.
You see here, I am highlighting your work just this week. I think it was just a couple of days ago.
It was.
I wanted to thank you for what you're doing on the Ag Committee. What's the next steps on this, and how do you think it's going to go?
So how budget reconciliation works is all 12 committees write a budget reconciliation package by committee. Then it goes to the budget committee, and they kind of mesh it together. And then that goes to the entire floor
Okay.
to get voted on. And then the Senate's got to do something too. And then they go into what's called conference, and you reconcile the two reconciliation bills.
That's why they call it reconciliation. then.
Correct.
All right.
And then that gets voted on, and then it goes to the president to sign.
Okay. How long is that going to take?
I want this done by Memorial Day.
That would be
Out of the
awesome.
House. This should be out of the House next week.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your work on that. And one final thing I wanted to say to you as you're here. One of the things I've been talking about on my podcast, it's kind of a recurring theme. It happens every now and then, especially I started talking about it with Ryan Hipsch, and then I see these same themes happening over and over again. I feel there are three types of people who get involved in politics and involved in politics at all levels.
Yeah.
Predators, prey, and protectors.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, the way I look at it, the prey are the taxpayers, and the predators go after them. I wanted to thank you for being a protector. You are doing a terrific job, sir, and it is such an honor to have you in the 3rd District out there protecting us, so thank you very much.
Well, interestingly enough, I've been a protector my entire life.
Amen.
It's something that's innate. I wrote in my book, shameless plug, book of Man Navy.
Plug away.
A Navy SEAL's Guide to the Lost Art of Manhood. It's out of print right now. I need to do another round, but I had a bunch of my friends and family write parts of it, and I had forgotten about this, but one of my cousins, his name's Damien, he said one of his earliest memories was him getting picked on by a big dude in a pool, and then me socking that guy in the nose, and he said, Damien, he looked down and he saw the blood in the water, and that guy was way bigger than me, apparently, but someone was picking on somebody else, and I don't appreciate that.
And God bless you, man.
Yeah.
So good.
Well, thanks, dude.
And coming back to having some video to share with you, I had the pleasure of speaking with the Monroe County Board President, Cedric Schnitzler, this year. Actually, it was Halloween night that we had this conversation, and it was a really good conversation, sort of preparing to learn how county governments can control their property taxes. Check this out. So, as I'm looking at this, $3,934,664,700 of value in Monroe County, and then $71,144,729. I assume that's the number for the taxable values or something like that. And then 16.79. 16.79 is the, what is that part? The
personal property.
That might be it, yeah. And then in La Crosse, whatever the numbers, the totals, I don't need to go through that, but it's 17.86. So La Crosse County has 17.86, and Monroe County has 16.79. Is it? I don't know if that's the assessed value percentages or something like that.
Yeah.
How does all this property tax stuff work? Can you help explain that to me? Because you got mill rates, you got levies. It help break that down for me.
Well,
without nerding out too much, but if you don't want to talk about it.
No. I'm fine talking about it because, I mean, I've been on finance quite a few years, and I wish I had our treasurer sit next to me, but that's fine. You know,
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. So, you know, the assessor comes out, they're going to assess your property. That's the basis.
Yeah.
And once that's done, then there's a levy, so much as you can levy. We're locked in levies at the counties, cities, towns, municipals, I forget what it is.
So when Governor Walker had the property tax freeze, then so that's like a freeze on the levy?
That is a levy freeze, other than new construction, and I think there was, again, I don't have the numbers, but I want to say it's new construction, or in this particular case, we went up this last year 1.9%.
Okay.
Like $167,000 that we could levy additional dollars in Monroe County. It could be a little bit higher, but it wasn't much. And that's our new growth money that we are allowed to increase.
Okay.
The problem with that is, and there is a problem, and I'm not advocating for higher property taxes, let's just get that straight, because I have another solution.
Well, and like I said, I mean, it's a complicated formula that
it is.
I'm trying to understand myself.
So you really have assessment, you have levy, and then you have the mill rate. And the mill rate, I guess I'll put it in my terms, like on my property taxes. So I built an addition to my house.
Mm-hmm.
My agriculturalist gives me a little break because we have beef and some crops, but mostly beef. When I built my addition on May 1st, or whatever that magical number is, the assessor comes by and says, whatever you have then is what we're going to assess based on the open book, and then they'll apply that to the November tax roll on assessed value.
Right.
That in itself translates to, when you put everybody together, how much of a levy increase you can have. I'm not trying to get too nerdy or whatever, but that's what that does. But then the next year, that property tax of mine, when it shows, oh, you put on a $60,000 addition, now your assessment is going to reflect that.
Mm-hmm.
Legit increase, yes. I knew that was coming because I put that out there.
So the formula changes because the assessment goes up.
Correct. So then, in the net of it, the mill rate is what is officially set by each district, meaning in this case, Monroe County's levy, and then the mill rate translates into what everybody, and when you put them all together, you got school,
Mm-hmm.
tech, Monroe County, township, that makes your mill rate. You roll them all together.
Okay.
But the levy for us in this last year for the county, we actually are going down.
And my friend, some of the most fun conversations I had all year was when I got a chance to discuss some of the most important issues facing Wisconsin voters. And I was able to sit down with the Republicans who are running to be our next governor. So here's a snippet of my conversation with Congressman Tom Tiffany.
Wisconsin's going to become one of the prosperous states of America. We've seen the woke and broke, and you do right there in Holmen, across the river in Minnesota. Minnesota and Illinois are headed in the wrong direction, and Wisconsin's going to make a choice, I think, in 2026. Are we going to go the woke and broke route like Minnesota and Illinois, or are we going to be one of the prosperous states of America? What we'll see is rising incomes. We'll see property taxes that are frozen, making home ownership more affordable. We're going to see declining energy rates. We used to be among the lowest in the Midwest. Now we're among the highest for utility rates. We're in the bottom 10 to be able to create a new business. We're going to see the brain drain reverse here in Wisconsin. We're going to see young people that are going to want to stay here in Wisconsin and use that great entrepreneurial burst that they have in their 20s and 30s to be able to create jobs and businesses and stuff like that. We're going to see them stay right here in Wisconsin. That is how I would define success.
Yeah, I love that. I think you nailed it. And I mean, to your point, we're losing that brain drain. That brain drain is happening right now. Young people are moving away from the state to seek opportunities that we should have here. So thank you for pushing for those kinds of policies.
Yeah, and there's one other thing that is really going to be key in this campaign, and that is education. We have fallen behind Mississippi with our K-12 education system here in Wisconsin. And
yeah.
For your listeners, I'm going to repeat that. We have fallen behind Mississippi. 1 in 3 fourth graders can read at grade level here in the state of Wisconsin. We have seen a collapse of our educational system. We saw the 200 sexual misconduct cases that were swept under the rug while Tony Evers was the head of the DPI and Jill Underly while at the Department of Public Instruction. I mean, we are not in a good spot, and you cannot have a prosperous state if you don't have a well-educated populace. And we've always had that in Wisconsin. I mean, I think back, all of my brothers and sisters, the 8 of us, we all went to the local public school in Elmwood. We got a good education. My daughters, who are all out of school, K-12 anyhow, and they all got a good education up here in the Minocqua School District. They went to local public schools. I don't care if you're in a public, private, or a parochial school, you should expect that a kid is going to get a good education in Wisconsin. And we are going to make that happen, because what's happening under Tony Evers and Jill Underly is completely unacceptable. And it is going to be a key issue in this campaign.
God bless you for that, sir. I know, just like you said, Wisconsin used to be known for really good education. Well, 2 things, really. Our great work ethic and our education system. And it feels like a crime that we're losing those things now. I remember just a few years ago when I was working for IBM at the time. Now I'm blessed to work for Delta Defense out of West Bend. But when I was with IBM, I would go out to client sites. I think it was in Louisiana. And my boss said, well, hey, Chris here is from Wisconsin. So that was like one of the key selling points, because they knew we were going to get stuff done for them. So that work ethic is a huge thing. But like you said, education, it is a crime what's happening with our education system right now. And I just spoke with David Varnum the other day as well. And he was talking about highlighting education for his run as lieutenant governor. And I think the way he put it was this idea of accountability. We're pouring all this money into school districts, but we're expecting no accountability in return. And so maybe that's the key difference. If we get a little bit of accountability that goes along with those tax dollars, maybe then we can turn the results around. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I don't rule out putting more money into schools. In fact, we probably will, but it will be tied exactly to what you're talking about. That's accountability. So we should have the money follow students and families. Let's pay good teachers more money. We should pay those teachers that do an outstanding job. They should get paid more money. And let's put the money into that and our local communities rather than the system. And ultimately, there's got to be accountability. And we go back to our school administrators and say, you guys got to produce. And then we will put more money in once you've proven that you can do the job. But that accountability part of it is key. No doubt.
And the other Republican candidate for Wisconsin governor, Josh Schoemann, he was very generous with his time. He came on the Speakeasy Conversations, and we talked on multiple occasions. Here's a snippet from some of that. So for those listening who aren't aware, tell them about your 4-point plan.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on to talk about it, because it is something I've heard everywhere I've gone across the state, top 5 issue of concern for people. And I like to refer to it as secure and verifiable elections. And it really starts with, at the top of the list, abolishing the Wisconsin Election Commission. And I believe that strongly. It's been something that's near and dear to me. I've worked in elections for almost 20 years in Wisconsin as a municipal clerk at the smallest level of government, a community of about 1,100 people. I did everything from testing the election machines at the beginning of the process all the way to now as county executive incentivizing municipalities to hand count the results at the end of an election. And so I know the ins and outs, and that's what this proposal is all about, is pushing power back to the people, starting with the abolishing the Wisconsin Election Commission and putting it in the hands of an elected official who is ultimately accountable to the people. I think if we start with that, there's a lot of really important nuance that we can get into, but I think that's a humongous first step. And quite frankly, it's a differentiator between me and my primary opponent, who voted to create Wisconsin Election Commission.
Yeah, that's a good point. That Wisconsin Elections Commission has always been a little shady to me, because just as you said, there's no accountability to the voters. It's like this little extra bureaucracy who doesn't really have any accountability to anybody. But they're making some very important rules that end up, in my opinion, screwing everything up.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, it was a system that I would say sucks a little bit less than the Government Accountability Board before it, but only a little. I mean, it is modeled after the Federal Election Commission. 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. I mean, what do you think happens with anything that's even modestly controversial? It ends in a tie, right? Which is by design. And then, to add insult to injury, who does the decision go to? Well, it's the staff, bureaucratic staff. And of course, we've seen how that's played out. So, I think what's frustrating to me is in America, we elect our leaders. We don't appoint them, and we certainly don't anoint them. And here we find ourselves in a situation where, the foundation of our constitutional republic is elections and elected officials, and we've got it run by a 3-3 tie and bureaucrats. Like, that doesn't seem right. So this is, once again, about putting the power back in the hands of the people through an elected official. And I'm excited when I'm governor in January 2027, we're going to work with the legislature to get exactly that done.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then, like you said, working with the legislature to see how they want to craft the changes to it. I mean, it could be something as simple as, and I don't know, saying the word simple probably isn't the right word, but it to me, it seems like it could be as simple as putting the what is it, the state
Secretary of State?
I'm drawing a blank. The Secretary of State, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Secretary of State used to be in charge of elections, right?
Yeah, but I think it's been 50 years now. But, there's 32 states in the country where I think 32, maybe 33, but a majority where the Secretary of State, elected official generally, is in charge. We could certainly follow that model. I don't have a problem if it's the lieutenant governor. That's a position that everybody knows largely does nothing except for wait for the governor to drop over, or state treasurer as well. To me, it's less important which position and more important that it's accountable to the people. Because right now, I mean, when you think about how that model was set up, who does it benefit really? At the end of the day, it's certainly not the people. In my opinion, it's the politicians. And what a horrible system that we have that really is just designed to benefit politicians.
And along the same lines of conversations with people running for state office, I also sat down with my friend David Varnum, who's running for lieutenant governor. Here's a clip from that. What does a lieutenant governor Varnum look like in a couple of years? You're in the role, you're doing the thing. What does success look like for Lieutenant Governor Varnum?
I think it's working with the governor to pass bold initiatives and bold legislation and being a leader in our country and in the Midwest. I've already talked about, I think we need to be the lowest taxes in the Midwest. I think we can accomplish that. And I'm already hearing the governor candidates, they're talking about similar things. And I think being able to pass bold initiatives on finance, making sure that we're banning men and women's locker rooms, being very bold on immigration and deporting criminal illegal aliens, making sure that we're improving our education system. I think as much as people want to believe that just throwing money at it is the solution, I think that's false. I think we need more parental involvement in education. That I think we need to be looking at raising our test scores and thinking outside the box. Why are we falling behind so many other states? I think it's because we're just trying to throw more money at it. And that comes directly from the fact that Governor Evers is holding up progress on that issue. That's his solution, is more money. I think Republicans have passed a lot of bold legislation when it comes to education, but he has not wanted to sign that. And I think having a Republican governor in there that truly believes that there are good approaches to education that are outside the box, I think will be a success story for the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And another thing, too, that I'm hearing in what you're saying, it's something that politicians don't usually use. It's almost like a dirty word, accountability. If we can just have a little bit of accountability, especially at the school districts, I mean, that, to your point, I mean, they're just throwing money at it without any accountability. You're not going to get good results with that.
Right. We're seeing the scores are falling. And why are they falling? Money's going up, scores are going down, something is wrong there. And Republicans have been talking about this for years, but it's been falling on deaf ears with the governor, not wanting to change the trajectory of what's happening. And I think we can change that trajectory with a Republican governor.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a heck of a lot of sense. Thanks for having that approach too, because I think it is important. That kind of goes back to the idea of, I mean, this is what it takes to protect taxpayers, right? We were just winding down right now. And before I let you get out of here, what is a good way for everyone in the audience to take a look at your candidacy, the policies that you want, and just get in touch with you?
Yeah, davidvarnum.com is my website. I'm also on X at dvarnum and on Facebook at David C. Varnum. And Varnum is spelled V as in Victor, A-R, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in Mary. There's no U's. I know it sounds like it has a U, but davidvarnum.com, no U's.
All right. Thanks so much for being here today. This was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
I did. I had a great time. Really appreciate you having me on, Chris. Thank you.
And just to wrap things up on the right note, this was probably one of the funnest conversations I had all year. Judge Maria Lazar is running to be our next Supreme Court justice in the state of Wisconsin. And she was so very nice and patient as I had some technical difficulties here in the speakeasy. But she was so nice and fun to talk to. Here's a snippet of that conversation. And you could just feel the passion she has for the law.
I'm not out there to say what I want the law to be. There's an old case. I won't quote it for you, law nerd that I am. There's an old case out there that says, we are to say what the law is. And so if you want to change the law, if you want to change the rules, if you want to do anything like that, you go to your other branches of government. That's not us. So what I've seen, sadly, look at $150 or whatever $1 million was spent last year on a race where if you polled everyone in the state of Wisconsin and asked them which of the two candidates was a better judge, which of the two candidates had more qualifications, who went to this school or that school, who has opinions that say this or that, who writes better, who does, no one knows, because that wasn't an issue. It was all outside political money. So when this race opened up, I thought, this is a perfect opportunity for me to continue to serve the public, which is one of the reasons I went from circuit court to the Court of Appeals, to make more of an impact and address the intricacies of the law and issue opinions that didn't just matter in one case, but could be statewide. But this state Supreme Court race is an opportunity to say to everybody in Wisconsin, my home state, I love my state, to say to everybody in this state that we're all good, fair, common sense people, and we want to start putting justices on this court who will not be politically bound, who will not rule in a way where you walk in the courtroom and you know already if you've won or lost. And I thought this was the perfect opportunity to kind of draw that line in the sand and say, let's get back to justice. Let's get back to integrity. And that's why I'm running.
Yeah, I love that. And, that whole idea about focusing on the law, that is such an important thing. And Mike Hipsch and I were talking about it recently in a podcast, actually a couple of podcasts. It keeps coming up. But the way he put it, I thought was really well said, that he would respect judges who say, I really don't like this, but the law is the way it is. So legislature, you should fix this. But this is the way I'm ruling because this is the way it is now.
And that's absolutely funny that you would say that, because when I was on the circuit court, I would do that in some of my written opinions, where I would say the legislature hasn't set, for example, a statute of limitations with respect to a case I had that involved cemeteries, and they hadn't set one. And I specifically said I had to pick between a 4 and a 6. So I picked the one and I said, but the legislature should address this. And now on the Court of Appeals, I'll do footnotes where I'll say, and also I always say, read my footnotes. That's where my best work is. But I'll do footnotes and I'll say, the law says this. I'm not certain that the legislature intended this, but this is what it says. If I'm incorrect in what they intended, then they should address it and not me. And I never would presume to say, I know better than the legislature. They're elected by the public and they write the laws. I just interpret and determine whether they're constitutional. And that's exactly what a judge should do. Mm-hmm. And you're not always happy with what you say, because there are things that, quite frankly, don't tell anybody, but the legislature doesn't always say what they mean to say or get it right.
Sure.
No offense.
Well, and that's well said too. I think on the flip side, going the other way, if judges do make laws from the bench, that's a big concern. And I've recently reread now Federalist number 78, where Hamilton was pretty specific about how dangerous the judicial branch can be if it usurps power from the other branches. And I gotta be honest, I'm really concerned. That's kind of where we're going right now. And so God bless you for having the attitude of focusing on just the law, not what your desires for it are.
And that's funny you say that, because I used to go around and I quote that section and say that the public has nothing to fear from the judiciary, but everything to fear when it steps into the legislative roles. And then I was told that that's, like quoting Shakespeare to people, and everyone's eyes kind of
Right.
over. So I put it in a more common sense way to say to people that, you may like the fact that you have a court or a judge or a justice that goes your way and interprets something that's not the way it's written, and because you prevail. You may like that, but you have to worry, because if a court does that, if it's activist in either respect, on either side, they're not only going to find rights that aren't there, but they have the ability to start taking away rights that are there. And I just want people to realize and be concerned that, yes, you win today, but tomorrow, well, now your First Amendment rights are gone, and people can censor you like they're doing in Europe, where if you say the wrong thing, you're just as guilty as if you stab somebody. And that's horrendous. We have freedom of speech. We don't want to lose that.
Well, my friends, thank you so very much for tuning into this episode, this special episode, this 2025 recap of Cooley Conservatives Speakeasy Conversations. It is truly such a blessing, folks. It's hard to find words how grateful it is to have the honor, the privilege of speaking with so many wonderful people throughout this incredibly beautiful state. And to help promote our traditional American values. That's really the purpose of CooleyConservatives.com. It's one of the reasons why I started the podcast. Folks, we got to get back to the basics of our country. Patriotism, those traditional American values and principles that we have. And again, words just cannot express how grateful I am to you for taking the time to listen in and watch these episodes. Folks, I am so incredibly blessed, undeservedly blessed. It is such a privilege to be able to do this and share this kind of information with you. With every fiber of my heart, thank you so very much for listening, for being out there, engaging with our conversations, and to the guests who have generously given their time to help generate this kind of content. Again, the listeners, we couldn't do it without you. The reason that I'm here is to help spread the word to you. So thank you so much for being out there. And I pray that you have the very merriest of Christmases. Spend some good time with friends and family out there, folks. Let's get back to basics. Take care, and God bless.